a native, it looks like home. To a tourist, a point of visitation. To a sea captain, a port. To an aviator, an obstacle. To you, an island. To us, a question mark. We are striking at Guadalcanal to halt the advance of the Japanese. We do not know his plans, or his strength, or his location, or his troop dispositions. We are as well trained as time and our peacetime experience allow us to be. We are as well armed as these same factors permit. Only combat will tell us how effective our training, our doctrines, and our weapons will be.
At 03:10 the morning of August 7th, the transports with their naval covering force rounded the northwestern end of their objective and divided into two forces. One steamed for the Tulagi-Gavutu-Tanambogo operations. The other moved silently to the southeast. At odd contrast with the peaceful darkness was the varying opinions of command.
The troops were already embarked when, for the first time, General Vandegrift learned that he was not to have ample air and service support for the duration of his landing. He based his plans on the assumption that he would have 4 days, adequate time to disembark all forces and put ashore all supplies. Now he was informed that the landing was classed as hit and run, that all troops and supplies must be ashore and the ships withdrawing in a single day, 2 at the maximum. This hit where it hurt. With full load, he only had 60 days' supplies, 10 units of fire for all weapons, and minimum individual baggage.
On August 7th, 1942, Task Group X-Ray approached the assault beach at 12 knots in a double column. From 06:13 until 06:45, the Navy hurled destruction toward the supposed Japanese strong points. At 08:59, observation reported no visible enemy activity in the scheduled landing area. The troops were committed. It was 09:19. These are American boys, Marines. They are headed for their first personal encounter with the nip bug, whose bite can be fatal. Is he as cunning, fanatical, and invincible as some nations are beginning to believe?
I, for one, didn't think so. The Marines had served with him in Shanghai, in Piping, in Tientsin, and every time there was a riot, the Marines beat the devil out of him. And the Marines had always been in the minority. I said, for the first time in the history of the Japanese nation, they're going to be defeated. Our boys are better trained. They were better individual fighting men. Their weapons were better. As for being a fanatic, there is no greater fanatic in the world than a Marine. He has given the Germans, the Japanese, and the Chinese communists cards and spades and has beaten them in ferocity in battle. Why? Because he's trained to fight and survive, not to fight and die needlessly.
Since heavy enemy concentrations were to be expected near the perimeter of airstrip, the site chosen was 9,000 yards southeast of Lunga Point. The right flank of the beach, marked by the Tenaru River, offered natural defense against any possible interference from the west or northwest. The east flank had no such protection. The 1st Marines, reinforced, landed at D plus 50 minutes, passed through the right sector, and attacked due west on an azimuth of 260 degrees. Its mission? To seize Grassy Knoll, Mount Austin. But here, the map was found to be in error. The height the Marines so wanted to command was several miles away, surrounded by impassable jungle and protected by the unfordable Tenaru River. Other Marine units probed cautiously forward, mystified, but not unhappy. The Japanese, for some strange psychological reason, had not opposed the landing.
General Vandegrift had anticipated strong resistance, had committed his men for conflict, and behind them the meager supplies were coming ashore faster than they could be handled. Even naval personnel, hastily debarked, could not unload as fast as the boats arrived, so 100 stood offshore.
At 11:01, the warning was flashed from a coast watcher in the Upper Solomons. 18 enemy bombers headed your way. Mugford is hit, but miraculously no other vessel is touched. And as our gunners reach their marks, two of the enemy pay the price. Again, the supplies start to pile up. And again, the enemy drops his anchor, to no avail, but loses another brace of his Firebirds. At 23:30, the unloading was out of hand. No more precious supplies would leave the transports until the beach could be cleared. And as the efforts are redoubled, intelligence and command are puzzled. The crews of 28 enemy bombers have seen the landings, yet not one has attempted to destroy the vulnerable beach-laden supplies. Surely they must know that their destruction would cripple, possibly even postpone the invasion. Surely they must see this. Why then have they not taken advantage of our helplessness?
We were learning, we were evaluating. Intelligence surmised it was an inability to adapt to any change in preconceived plans. They had been ordered to bomb the ships, so they had attempted to bomb the ships. They had not been sent to bomb the supplies, so they had left them alone. If this trait of character applies to their ground and naval units, then we have discovered a basic flaw in enemy psychology which could be exploited for ultimate victory.
On August 8th, D-Day +1, the 1st Battalion, supported by Company A 1st Tank Battalion, crossed Alligator Creek. Resistance was very light, and by nightfall, the coveted airstrip was in Marine possession. The same day, the transport George F. Elliott is hit, and her fiery belch is fed by our precious supplies. American planes fan out to scout for the enemy fleet, believed to be somewhere near. Through a rift in the clouds, the pilot spots them, radios their position. And still, the George F. Elliott burns. The plan is sound. Place the American destroyer groups, one on either side of tiny Savo Island, to intercept, turn, or destroy. Meet force with lesser force. But if we had tactical surprise in the landing, the enemy inherits it now. Miles astern, the Elliott still burns, silhouetting and betraying us to the hidden enemy. When it is finished, we have lost the USS Astoria, Quincy, Vincennes, and His Majesty's ship, Canberra. The USS Chicago is badly damaged. The way is clear. The enemy is unopposed. Now he can annihilate the helpless ships at the beachhead. But today is the day of miracles. God lends liberty his guidance, and the Japanese Vice Admiral Mikawa sails back the way he came.
The presence of such superior enemy naval power dictated immediate withdrawal of the convoy and escorts, and they weighed anchor at dawn of August 10th, carrying with them more than half of the too small original stock of Marine supplies. It would be 30 days before the Marines would eat full rations.
With the men and supplies available, it was impossible to attempt any extensive mopping up of enemy remnants in this unfamiliar and unmapped territory. Perimeters painfully thin were established. In anticipation of amphibious attacks, beach defenses were strongly organized, featuring emplaced machine guns, 37mm anti-personnel and anti-boat guns, backed by mobile 75s mounted on half-tracks. But where was the enemy? Marine patrols poked and probed, and occasionally contacts were made, but not in strength. Intelligence added to its growing fund of enemy knowledge. Prisoners had no compunction against telling everything about their own forces, positions, strength, plans, casualties. And now the reason became clear for the lack of all-out resistance. There were less than 2,000 Japanese on Guadalcanal.
We pause at the shank of a strange day. It has been like no other. We have taken our first tentative steps into the new world of combat, and the unreality of being shot at has not yet penetrated to the depth of full belief. You shake your head. Did it really happen? There is a warm togetherness of fellowship with those who have been beside you. You see them and yourself in a new and prideful perspective. One moment, it is light. The next, it is dark. And surrounded by your friends in the blackness of the strange night, you are suddenly alone. Into this pool of strangeness, the night drops its noises. Something's crawling. There it is again. It's too loud for an animal. So it must be I better shoot. No, it might be a Marine. But if it isn't, I'd better shoot. No. That would give away my position.
Hey, Joe.
Oh, it is a Marine. Charlie? Enemy trick is fathomed at a cost. But other ears have recorded this drama of the night. There it is again. But this time we are ready. He crawls closer, closer. Now! It is a Marine. He is only stunned, but tragedy has been narrowly averted. We work out recognition signals. We are new. One day of combat does not produce the seasoned veteran. We are green. Their catcalls and their laughter reach us from the perimeter. But we are stubborn. And gradually through the velvet softness we feel it, spreading, uniting, sustaining. It is the feeling of togetherness, of kinship, of closeness with our fellow Marines. In the black of the strange night, we are no longer alone.
On August 21st, D-Day plus 14, the long-awaited air support arrived. And other assorted individuals. Colonel Ichiki committed his 1,200 troops in a suicidal assault against 5 times as many Americans near the mouth of the Tenaru River. He succeeded in overrunning a few American emplacements. Old rusty barbed wire hastily emplaced in front of our positions disconcerted the enemy, and American machine guns, canister-firing 37-millimeter cannon, mortars, tanks, and rifles grew hot from their enveloping fire. 16 continuous hours later, 900 Japanese lay dead. 15 were taken prisoners, and the cost to the Marines was less than 100 casualties. Ratio, 9-to-1. The Marines had met the first all-out Japanese assault, and for the first time in modern history, the Japanese were soundly defeated. A pattern had been set. A trend reversed.
The arrival of aircraft improved the Marine intelligence position. Now we could scout Japanese shipping for reinforcements headed towards the island.
But with his almost total naval supremacy, the enemy was able to put regular units of troops ashore without detection. And once under the canopy of the impenetrable jungle, his presence was lost from the air. By September 12th, indications pointed toward an impending attack. The probable point would be the hogback, to become known as Edson's Ridge. And for the next 19 hours, no man could say with certainty who would hold the island when the attacks and counterattacks were finished.
To further disrupt the pounded Marines, enemy vessels hurled tons of explosive shells into the airfield and eastern sector lines. Colonel Edson sent his only 2 as yet unengaged companies, A and D, to eliminate the enemy salient on the Lunga. The attempt was unsuccessful, which made Company B's position untenable, and Captain John B. Sweeney withdrew his men to rugged terrain, which enabled him to rely on groups for strong points rather than in a continuous line.
The enemy was leaving no stone unturned. 42 bombers made their strike. Rising to meet them went 21 planes from the Saratoga, sent to reinforce the 11 Marine planes flyable for combat, led by Lieutenant Commander Leroy C. Simpler. 16 enemy planes flamed down at the loss of 1 American plane and pilot.
On the ground, General Kawaguchi launched an all-out blow at Colonel Edson's center and a supporting blow against the right front. The devastating force opened a gap between companies A and B. The right flank platoon of B Company was driven out of position, but managed to fight its way into C Company. Before Kawaguchi could exploit the breakthrough, the 5th Battalion, 11th Marines laid concentrated artillery fire upon him. So well directed was this fire that, with Colonel Edson's consent, the pattern was exploded within 200 yards of his battered position.
The next wave of banzais drove the 2 companies backward along the ridge. Company B was now in a hopeless position. Edson pulled back and regrouped. The artillery shortened its range. This bursting curtain of invisible steel, plus the weapons of the men, were the sharp knives of courage and refusal to be whipped that exploded the myth of Japanese indomitability. The kid from back home, under able and inspired direction of his officers, had stopped the enemy, dead in his tracks. In the black of the strange night, he had held. He had won. And while he had learned the superiority of himself, his weapons, his comrades, his leadership, and his righteous cause, his leaders had learned too. They knew that the so-called decadent product of a decadent society was as strong as steel inside, that he fought with the courage of his ancestors, with the skill and ingenuity which was his heritage.
Intelligence also learned. They found that the enemy, once committed to a battle plan, would seldom deviate. That if his plan failed, he would not discard it, but would continue to use it over and over and over again. His pattern of attack was becoming clear. Scream, attack, and fall back. Regroup, scream, attack, fall back, regroup. He followed this plan with faithful regularity, and on Guadalcanal and forevermore, until victory, the greatest fighting man in the world, the American, would be waiting to administer his destruction. Guadalcanal became a crusade for the Japanese. It was a sinkhole into which they poured scores of ships, hundreds of planes, and 50,000 troops. Marine leadership, men, training and equipment had been tested by a defeated enemy.